like the sky, your spirit is one with me. Your wings span the mighty ocean, your eyes see everything. The slightest of your motions can make the continents ring. Yet in all your might and glory, vanished from the skies, leaving just another story, this millions of man-made lies. They tell us how you fell from the sky.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of the Free American Hour. I'm your host, Clay Douglas, and my guest today is Hilmar Von Campe, and his website's www.vanCampe1.wmv.com. He was a former Hitler Youth member, World War II veteran. Hilmar, welcome.
Thank you very much. I'm glad I'm back with you.
Nice to have you back, sir.
Thank you.
Hilmar, you are saying, we've been watching and all of these things developing. We got wars going on all over the world here, and you say that America is greasing the skids for the state to take over as the ultimate authority, threatening a repeat of the rise of National Socialism. And you say that the Obama White House and the United States government in general now more closely embrace the political doctrines of the Nazis than they do those of the Founding Fathers. I would have to agree with that.
Very good.
We are now exactly. Let's go back to the rise of Hitler. I mean, this is a man that got elected just like basically just like Obama got elected. You know, a little bit out of the ordinary, got elected, and at first, wasn't Hitler really fighting for the German people? Wasn't he trying to loosen the hold from the Versailles Treaty, from the sanctions and the reparations that were put on the German people by the banksters? I mean, I look at the banksters as the people that fund both sides of every conflict in the last century. What's your opinion, sir?
I didn't get your last phrase. Could you say that again, please, so that I can answer correctly? I didn't understand your last sentence you had.
I said the bankers, the international bankers, they represented by the Rothschilds, who came from Germany, set up most of the central banks around the world. They financed both sides of conflict. They financed Hitler, they financed Stalin, they financed the United States, and they financed Britain to fight these wars here. Was Hitler the bad guy that the Jewish press presents him as, or was he actually initially trying to do something for the German people?
No, I don't think he ever wanted to do something for the German people, expecting that he did not calculate to be defeated. Neither did most other people, like myself. I never thought we would be defeated, and I was always afraid that the war would end and I would have no part. Now that shows how confused you can be, because the beginning of World War II, Hitler was in Third World War I, he was a decorated front soldier, and he appealed always in his campaigns and so forth. He appealed to the veterans who were disgruntled about what happened after World War I. So and Hitler had never a majority. What really threatened Germany at that time was Stalin's conviction to get Germany under his control after World War One, and there was nobody to stop him. And the conservatives thought that if they connect with Hitler, then he will do the job. That is why the conservatives made a contract with the Nazis, with Hitler. And that was their mistake. Hitler had never, the Nazis had, which by the way stands for National Socialist. National Socialist. He is a socialist. Not to the right, he is to the left, as radical to the left. So Hitler in the head, when he was elected, he was not elected. He had 31 or 32% of the votes. Then he had another election right after he was made chancellor, and then he got, I think, 38%. But the difference was done by the conservatives, and as soon as Hitler was in power, he eliminated anybody who was not a Nazi, including my father. So that is what I have to say about that.
As the National Socialist, I mean, what is the difference between National Socialism and communism? I mean, it seemed like you were supposed to, the Germans and Hitler were supposed to be standing up against Russia, and then all of a sudden the United States and Britain all come into it against Germany.
But first of all, Hitler, that was one of the biggest lies in the history of mankind, and you have made, and that is where we may have something here in the same way, because Hitler in 1939, after he had enforced his unique, he controlled everything. There was no media, there was no other party, no other youth group, and they were not in favor of the church, but Hitler said the churches we destroy when we have won the war. So that is what his power was. And he of course told the reason, when he sat with his generals and told them that we now have to go to war and get some more territory for us, we can't live on a small piece of land. The generals answered him, and that will be our reason. And he said, don't you worry about the reason. I get you the reason, and you then do your work. And what he did, he ordered the SS to appear. He gave them Polish uniforms, Polish arms, and sent them into Poland. And then they killed a number of people in the concentration camp close by, and put them also in the uniforms, and distribute them around a complex area of business, of banks, of production. And as soon as it was dark, the SS Polish soldiers, so to speak, came into Germany again, and they shot it in the air, made a record noise, and disappeared. Next morning, Hitler said to I can't remember whom he told it to, but he told, oh yeah, he made a speech to what was left of the Reichstag, which would be a parliament, but it was 100% Nazi. He made a speech to the nation and said that we had been attacked by the Poles, and now we will shoot back, and that was the beginning of the war. 2 days afterwards, the French and the British, who had treaties with Poland, declared war on Germany. Then I said to myself, and there were millions who said the same, we said, are the same enemies as World War I, and we cannot allow them to do the same to us again, and this is not a Nazi war, this is a German war, and we must first win the war, and then we can deal with the Nazis, which shows you that Hitler had absolutely not the majority in the thinking of many people. But that was the way it started, and we said we must first win the war with the French and the British, and then we get to the Nazis. It was a big mistake, and you can see the end of it.
The Benjamin Friedman, in a speech given at the number of years ago, said that the Zionists were responsible for World War II. The banksters were responsible for World War I and World War II. The Jews in New York, with a full-page ad, declared war on the German people in, I believe it was 1939. What role?
War broke out, but I'm not aware that any Jewish organization was being in good relationship with Hitler, because that went the discrimination first, which began, was of that nature that I don't think any Jewish organization, not even the bankers, could be their partners. I have not heard it in any case.
In Germany right now, it's illegal to disagree with the 6 million figure. There's a lot of historians that say there weren't 600 or 6 million Jews in Europe at that time. Can you what happened? What about the Jewish question? And why was Germany Hitler's ire drawn at the Jews in the first place?
Well,
unless this is all related to the fact that the Rothschilds financed the French Revolution, the Rothschilds financed the British Empire, and the Zionists, the Rothschilds ended up bringing the United States into this battle against Germany.
Well, what some American banks and companies did, big ones, were to make agreements with the German industry and say, if we win, we will after the war operate from Switzerland. That was for the Americans, and the Germans said we will deal after the war via Netherlands, as far as I'm concerned. But I repeat, we lived in a city, very small one, 6,000 inhabitants, and one and these played. We had even neighbors, the Jewish neighbors, and we played with the children. And there was no anti-Semitic animosity against the Jews where we lived. That may have been very different in the big cities, but in the small cities it was quite different. And when I saw, the only thing is that they were discriminated really in a very bad way, people, one step after the other. Until the end they had nothing. They had even lost the friendship which we had with them. But we didn't do a thing. My father was already in another, that is a long story also, but my father was not there when all this happened, it came to an end, and they were driven away, the Jews, and never seen again. My father was not there anymore, where we and the family was. We never got the idea what had happened, and I only saw that when I came back from the war. So, but that there was any cooperation between Jewish organizations, either now nor at that time, I don't know anything else, I have to say. The only thing I know that there is lots of Jewish votes for a party, the Democratic Party, who is now out to give part of Israel to the Arab terrorists. That is dangerous.
What do you see happening? When did you come over here? When did you come over here to the United States from Germany?
We lived in Mexico City at that time when we came in 1990. That is more than 20 years, and I'm a citizen for 6 years now. I think it is 6 or my wife 6 and I 5 years. We are American citizens. So we are here in we have always been here. I had a small factory in Mexico, and I exported to New Jersey and to California, So I was, and my sister lives in Mississippi, so I was in and out. We were quite well known, and we sent our children here to my sister so that they learn German and English at the same time, and then and that is what happened. We are now a three-language family, and so that's my answer to your question.
All right, what do you see happening here in the United States right now? We've got a number of issues going on. The economic issue is one, of course. The other, I think, is the influx of illegal aliens and drugs into this country. The drugs have always been used to fight wars, and now we have Americans being programmed by television to take these pharmaceuticals. A lot of people are dying. A lot of people are dying in this country right now, and we've got detention centers, gulags, being set up all over the country. They were built by Halliburton, funded by the U.S. government, I guess. What do you see happening here? You made the statement here that we're starting to go down the road to fascism. Now, a lot of people think of Obama as a communist or a socialist, but that fit right into the whole National Socialist theme too, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Tell me, sir.
Yes. And I think the biggest danger for America are we ourselves. Because, let's say, the Obamas, they know what they want. They want to take over the control of America from within. In the way he acts and in what he says. He is on that line. What I'm saying is that the real, and that applies the same to America today as to Germany at that time, that the main battle line is the role of God in human society, because you notice, as well in Germany as you see that here, a destruction of moral standards. And that is, and that I say again, I feel that the so-called right, or let's say the Republican leadership, does not know who the real enemies are. And I can only point out that before World War I, or when the Nazis took over in Germany, a group of Marxist communists went to New York, and they were changing the battle line for the communists and for the Marxists, because it was that after that the battle line was not mehr between the workers and the capitalists, but between the Marxists with a hidden program. And that was that was a group of German communist Marxists, and Gramsci, the founder of the top communist in Italy, and they defined the enemy as, and which should be attacked. They should be attacked. Every civil institution which there is, the school, the church, the family, the universities, everything. And you can see today that you have media which are against those people who want to have absolute and God commandments, that want to have the same line as our founding fathers, and they are trying very hard to now coming back to the Democrats in Congress, to undo what people do who want to have a clear-cut country with absolute moral standards. And so therefore what you can say is that at each action, everything has a concept which says it is spiritual, is ideological, because every material action in Congress, for instance, is part of a spiritual, ideological philosophy. which is to destroy the morality of America, because people who are morally dubious cannot stand up. And you can see that there is a black. On the one side, you have a great force of people, of many Christians who have a profound faith, but they don't know the enemy, and they don't really know what can I do. I say that every problem in the world can be reduced to the question: is it truth or lie? Everything right now is all in the international and the national policy is based on lies.
Well, let me ask you about the source of that is actually the motto of the Mossad. That's the motto of the Mossad. It says warfare by deception. Let me ask you, and they're asking me on my chat room here, you know, what are your views on Israel? I mean, this whole thing, World War II was fought, in my estimation, to award the country of Palestine to the Jews, to live up to the Balfour Declaration, given which was one of the factors in World War I. And they didn't. The failure of the League of Nations brought about a Second World War, and the result of that Second World War was the UN, and the UN's first act was to give the land of Israel, or the land of Palestine, to the Jews. What is your take on that? I mean, and we've got tremendous reports. We've got billions of dollars being funneled over to Israel, which was started as a colony of the Rothschilds, started by the Rothschilds, for the Rothschilds, and they started moving the Jews in and driving the Jews in from Germany and from Russia into that area.
Well, I think, and I have in my book Defeating the Totalitarian Lie, in which I have a lot of things, facts and figures for many things which I cannot get into this interview, but it is there. You should look into the book. I have one chapter about Israel, and now there's a movement to take Israel into the camp, or half of Jerusalem, into the camp of the Arab terrorists, and so far that has been prevented because the United States government has always defended and gives your veto that anything which would threaten their existence would be vetoed, and that's what they did. Now Obama doesn't do it anymore. That would mean that if he really gets through with that, we would have the Israelis being robbed of their own land, and I'm completely on the side of the Israelis, because it is their land. They have been there thousands of years ago, and they are still there today. Show me anything in the world of a country which has been their own in existence.
90% of the Jews did not come from Israel. They came from the land of Khazaria in Russia. You should be familiar with Khazarian history. They adopted Judaism wholesale. They were a warlike community. Tell me about the Khazars.
Tell you about what?
The Khazar, the land of the Khazars. They were right there on the Black Sea area. They were right there in Russia.
Well, I don't know what you're talking. I don't understand the last word. The Khazars. You want my opinion, but I don't know what
I'm asking you about. I made the statement that 90% of the Jews in Israel right now are descended from the Khazar tribe that expanded, and they were a warlike country.
Well, they have to be. I mean, they are surrounded by, especially the Arabs, and they are in the most smallest piece of state of the state, which is one of the smallest areas in the whole of the world. And I personally believe that they have a right on their land, and they have given it away already with the result that they have now terrorists at their borders. So in my book I have the agreement between the Arabs and the Jews at that time. That was after World War I. And the Arab leaders invited the Israelis, the Jews, to come to the Middle East and help, and then they could together develop the economy. And that was a very good relationship. But there was Hitler, and the Grand Mufti of Jerusalem was his guest, and he was every month $10,000 from Hitler or something of that nature, and he met with him, and he was part of getting the Jews out and get them into the concentration camps. And then the Germans had already nearly lost the war. This Grand Mufti went back to Jerusalem, and he began to make hatred to the Americans and the Israelis. And then came then the Grand Mufti died. The person to follow him as a boss, the most important person in the Arab world, was Yasser Arafat. And Yasser Arafat was trained by the communist KGB in Moscow, and it was I don't have it in front of me, but it was a general in charge of the intelligence of Romania, who told him, the Arafat, that it would be time now to declare war on America, and that's what they did. And in my view, that is the real truth. It is the Soviet Union who has been, after the Nazis, the one who took over. They had already been in there with 1 foot, and then they took over in the power game, and at the same time now the Western world doesn't. I have never heard this in any official declaration or telling them what the real message is, and I was always surprised that CIA doesn't bring this forward, because they should know that. Because then we begin to get clearer on who our enemies are, and we don't invite our enemies to be in our institutions. That is what makes me very nervous, I must say. I don't know whether I make myself clear.
Well, I am trying, we're still trying to decide here in the United States who the enemies are. The Muslims that were blamed for 9/11 never existed. Half of them weren't there. They were it was contrived. But the evidence points at Israeli participation, Jewish participation in the whole 9/11 thing, and the planting of Muslim Arab passports. I want to discuss that with you, but I got to take a moment here. And also, by the way, the Veterans Today editor has talked about Gaddafi. He says it was the Mossad that was supporting that was working in Gaddafi's office. So we've got that's a little bit confusing too. We don't know. Al Qaeda was supposedly the